this is Lodrik, and this is the game War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. And today we jumping back to our match against Dojo. And today is his turn 37, 17th and 18th February 1942. This is a turn after the strike on the port of Bombay and the sinking of the British fleet carrier and older battleship. So let's dive in and see how Dojo will react if we have any task forces nearby he wants sent out, if we have torpedo bombers, or if we have any meaningful counter-strike ready. So we conquer the rest of the northern Philippines bases now. We also have still some cleanup operation around north of Port Moresby. Buna we took, Ley we took, but there's still some broken Australian forces in the jungle. And we must get rid of them. Need to make sure that the bases are all under our control and that there's no scout planes left or submarine base. Here I have a light cruiser formation with some short bombardment, but the light cruisers are normally really not have not big effect normally on a bombardment attack. If you attack a airfield, they maybe can do damage, but against I think the port and main base installation, you can see here, I think they have not really enough firepower. So I try it again and again, but most of the time heavy cruisers, battleships are much better for this kind of task. But it was my attempt to simply soften up the enemy defense forces before I start this strike with my land-based Navy Guard units to take the base. But this support was maybe too less to really have an impact. I mean, it have maybe an impact, but simply too small. So we get enough scout information that there are still ships in Port Moresby Harbor, and here is our carrier fleet. The second carrier fleet simply is burned out of torpedoes, and also many of the bomber pilots have damaged airplanes this turn, and with the Japanese it's still the balance between what you have to risk and what you can afford to lose is of course dependent on how aggressive the player act. And I make this surprise attack on Bombay, and I think it was a success. We sunk the carrier, we sunk battleships, cruisers and cargo ships, so to stay there and will only risk that my carrier fleet maybe get engaged in any battle, and they are still first the fuel is low. Second, we have no torpedoes left. And third, we have a long way to return back. If we take any damage, everything what is slow down, everything what is slow will normally, I think, is lost, because I don't know how many submarines Dojo have nearby. And the Japanese really have no really counter for submarine warfare. And if the ship is very slow, it's an easy picking for submarines often. Also, the second carrier fleet is based on support carriers. They have no armor protection, only very few flak guns. So they're also not the best units to withstand the air attack. So this is the reasons mainly why I don't want to stay there for too long time. I take the win from last turn and then regroup them, and then I will prepare the next strike on the way back to Bombay, because normally Colombo, because Bombay and Colombo are the two ports have a shipyard, and we attack now Bombay and we sunk or cripple many ships, and we also damage a little the shipyard. And everything what is damaged but maybe can survive is crippled and need a shipyard to repair. So this is also why I want now normally go back and have a concentrate strike on Colombo. Because if we destroy, damage or get rid of the shipyard of Colombo, then there's really no place more for Dojo to repair his ship here on the map. Then he normally must bring all back to Cape Town. And this is a very long journey, or back to London. This is, I think, more, because he cannot simply stay here. I think there's no other shipyard. Maybe in, I don't know if there's like other shipyard. I don't think so. We can check later the map. But every ship have major damage, need a shipyard to repair it. So, and if I damage or get rid of this enemy shipyards in India, then Dojo must normally leave the map and go to his off map. And this consumes a lot of fuel, and it also consumes a lot of time. So in 1 or 2 months I don't normally must worry that there's any British activity in the Indian Ocean, and I can normally maybe more freely operate my stuff. Yeah, this is a typical Chinese bombardment. Bombard, scout, delay, interdict enemy forces, let my army forces catch up easily, and try to get rid of them. And here you can see this is the first carrier group, and I station my carrier fleet in shallow water. With Japanese formations, carrier formations like this, I would always try to stay in shallow water. Simply, if there's enemy submarines nearby and they attack you in shallow water, I mean, the possibility that the enemy submarine hit you is the same like in deep water. But in shallow water, there's always the possibility, much higher at least, that the Japanese destroyers can attack this submarine of the American. Most of the things here are more American submarines. Because in deep water we can normally not attack submarines without really meaningful success chance. But in shallow water, I force more or less Dojo to come to the shallow water, and if he try to attack me, he can do this. But the risk that he loses submarine or gets heavy damage submarines is very high. And this small cargo ship was of course no real problem for our elite pilots. all in all, this is a more or less a moving turn. The strike was last turn. This turn I have to move my stuff around. Maybe next turn will be also more or less moving. And maybe the turn after this turn, maybe have the strike on Colombo. The second strike on Colombo in this game already. And in China, after we took the two bases of Xi'an and Nanyang, we still have to manage here the cleanup operations before we can really prepare for anything big in the future. I like to do it one by one, take the cities, then clean up, then go for the next cities. This is really not over aggressive, it's simply only a fixed plan I follow, and so long Dojo don't find any counter, I simply follow my plan, my strategy. Here we can see that our dive bombers get an easy hit on this cargo ship. Dojo try to bring here maybe supplies or reinforcements inside, but normally these are only cargo ships, light cargo ships, so he tried to bring supplies to Port Moresby because I don't believe that there's much left for him. And his units simply starve out. And if the unit is normally starving, I think the biggest issue is that normally I think that morale, fatigue, and disabled units cannot heal more. If the unit is disabled, it needs supplies to go back to normal mode. And if you have no supplies, it's not more possible. And I also think so if units have no supplies left, then they really cannot get rid of the fatigue so easily, at least. This is only a small cargo ship. Some experience for our bombers. You can see that the dive bombers go down to 1000 or 2000 feet before they dropping the bomb. Means they really they have a very high chance to get a hit in this case. And this is why we have here, we have 12 dive bombers and 6 making the hit. And I'm not even sure if this, so it means 50% hit chance. This is of course perfect. If you dive of course 1000 feet deep and there's an enemy warship, then always a small flak gun will normally try to shoot down this dive bomber. So to dive will be more and more dangerous in the future. But also torpedo bombers will suffer more and more flak losses in the future if the Allies have better, more anti-aircraft equipment. Okay, this is now the attempt that we try to take the base of Ambon. But it was more or less based, I hope that my light cruiser formation will normally lower the defense power of the Dutch forces. But because the light cruisers more or less fail to have a really impact, our Navy Guard units now also fail to break the resistance. And it's always there's always luck. Because there's always a dice roll, or a calculation. But there's always a factor of luck, how successful. And now we can see we drop from 120 to 40. And the Dojo forces gets more or less double the point. So yeah, this is simply not a good combination. So the assault factor is still 1 to, or it's not 1 to 1, so means it's a fail attempt. And if your land forces fail and don't get at least a 1 to 1, it will automatically switch or break any attempts to strike again. So next day, this land forces will not attack more because they had a failure, and the game go in the safety mode and say, okay, we try to attack the base, but we fail, and because we fail, we wait for future instructions, because if we fail this time, we also will fail next time, and we don't want to burn our units. At least the game handle it like this. We only lose one unit more or less, one squadron, but the others are all disabled, so if we wait a little, they maybe can come back. But this looks still not powerful enough to really get rid of this Dutch units. So we take this base again. I think we took this already some days ago, and then it switched back. And now this is Dojo's counter bombardment, but not really with any meaning. So we saw nearly no activity. Dojo don't bomb Java. We bomb a little in China. No really navy engagement. I think submarines also no activity. So it's really only a moving turn for both of us. I mean, of course, for Dojo he only tried to reach I think June or July of 42, and before summer 42 he will maybe not try too much. He only organize his defense and bring stuff in position, and at the same time up to June I normally must conquer enough to have to have 4 times the victory points of Dojo, at least very close. Because if I can catch enough points to have 4 times the points of Dojo in summer of 42, then Dojo is in the situation that he must counter. Because if the 1st of January 1943 I have still 4 times the points in Dojo, I will have an auto victory. So this is more or less my goal. June, latest July, get 4 times the points and a little more, and then hold the line and see if Dojo can strike back. And if he cannot strike back, he lost. Okay, this is only this small 1-point patrol ships with at least they can hope to hit something. Yes, because we have here shallow water, so there's a possibility, but only very small. But we know there's an enemy submarine, and already because we know there's a submarine, everything is much more safe. It's much more harder for the submarine to really strike if they are detected. So this is, I think, now, maybe only a bombardment of Port Moresby, or already something like a preparation for the invasion. I'm not more sure. Yeah. So this is a standard bombardment of Port Moresby with a standard setup. 2 battleships and 4, but I use here now 6 destroyers simply because I know that here are many American submarines already. Because Dojo knows that I will come for Port Moresby and then he can add his submarines here, why not? And because I know that here are many submarines, I will add more destroyers to have simply higher chance to intercept his submarines and force him to dive. But this bombardment also was not really successful. It's damaged a little the installation, it burns more of his supplies, or it's more or less make sure that the base of Port Moresby, and even because now Dojo brings some cargo ships inside and maybe he unloads some supplies, and if I attack the base and I damage the base, and this will burn Dojo supplies. So I only make sure that the base of Port Moresby is always low on supplies. And even if I bomb and destroy the whole base of Port Moresby, for me it doesn't matter. Because it's a really... I only want to get rid of the base, that there's no Australians. There's no industry. There's only a port and the airfield. So I can destroy it all and then I can maybe later repair it. It's not so expensive. For me it's more important to get rid of these Australian forces. So here we can see there's a submarine try to attack us, but our escort destroyers found this submarine. So we can see get sighted by the escort, then they dive deep. And this means we more or less we make sure that the submarine not even can come in position to attack the battleships. And this is okay. Okay. So we're scouting around. And Dojo still have some Dutch long range scouts from, I think, from Palmbang. Yeah, but whether still no fighters in China. Here we can see that the Dojo's forces are... I think they will escape now. It's not more possible to catch them up. Even if I try to bomb them and slow them down, but they're still moving on the highway, on the main road. And they're simply too fast for me to catch up. But that's okay, because most of the units are very damaged. Even if they can escape, no, Dojo maybe need 1 month, maybe up to 2 months to fully get them back in the combat mode. Because there's not many supplies normally in China. And I think all these bases have a lot of manpower, so they normally are all already short on supplies, so it's hard for him to heal. Maybe everything what is normally damaged, I think he must maybe bring back to any base in the rear area, or maybe back or already back to Chongqing, because in Chongqing I think is a headquarter and they have a lot of support, and support also helps to heal up damaged units. This is simply too deep in the mountains. Okay, this is Dojo's long range B-17 bombers. Before he attacked, I think, somewhere in Leh, and then I think I killed 3 of his bombers, and then he changed now maybe the attack factor. I think this is coming out of, you can see the line, must be Darwin. Normally. And you can see that he is a long range attack because he only load 4 bombs. This is a long range attack. The typical standard load is 8 bombs, so because he's also coming from very high, so it is nothing to do with the altitude, it's something related to the range of the attack. But from 25,000 hard to hit something. So now we are already in the afternoon. Means that our carrier fleet get now scouted. I try to find a way that I maybe get rid of my detection, but it's not more easy. This is now the second try, but thunderstorms and 3 are maybe not enough. And again, 25,000 feet high, and I think I don't know even if I have anything there. Most of the bases in that area are completely useless. There's no industry, no value normal for anyone. You can have them or you don't have the bases. I simply take all the bases only to make sure that I know there cannot be any enemy ship hiding. Okay. This is now my invasion. This is only a little late. But I think, I don't know, maybe I had a wrong... I forgot something or something. No, it is, I want to attack this base with the same time to make the landing in Java, because if you have here a base, you can also have here fighter cover. And this base also has some resources, so there is some meaning to take this base. Most of the other bases here all are only for strategic locations, but no industry. Miri have oil, yeah, and Brunei have oil, but this bases here all, they are very, very, very little value normally. They're only locations you can operate something on. And here you can see that we use 2 heavy cruisers, and this already have more impact. Let's say this. And if I make an invasion, I always use 2 heavy cruisers normally for support, or 2 battleships, to make sure that the counter fire batteries are more look or focus on the cruisers and not on the invasion fleet cargo ships. So landing was successful, nothing gets lost. And this is more or less the end of the day. So not really happened. Very, very quiet. Dojo tried to bombard us again, yeah. And he made 1 hit and disabled 1 unit, okay. But you... So we have still double the attack value, but we dropping from 100, I think 20 to 97, so, and he only dropped, I think, from 51 to 46, so this attack was not a success for sure. I have to organize something. Maybe I must bring a heavy cruiser formation or a third Navy Guard unit, maybe. Okay, so we arrived at February 19th February 1942, and this was really very inactive, so we can see that losses was, we lost 1 by flag, I think, and 3 operations. So, only because if you wander in China, most of the airplanes they gets damaged, but this means often they gets damaged by landing accidents, or if they take off. They have not really much to do with flag power. But if you operate many airplanes simply because bad weather, this units, the airplane gets damaged. But even as, I don't know, like if someone kicks the airplane, it is damaged. It has not much meaning that how strong it is damaged. So the indicator of damage is very roughly only. But we can check and see that. So we have 3 operational losses of this Key 30 light bombers. And one of our scout planes, maybe from the cruiser formation, gets killed by flak. Because near India, we have a lot of jacks. They searching the sea and try to find if there's any fleet of Dojo. And of course, some of these jacks, they also fly to enemy base, and in the base there's flak, and then they get killed. And we can also see that Dojo lost the Catalina and the B-26 and the other Catalina. So this is a value. These are much more better airplanes than my shitty Key 30 light bombers. And 3 to 4 list of pilots. So we lost 1 killed and 1 wounded. So this is the flak. The guy, the jack pilot, he gets killed because his machine simply blew up over India and is lost and dead. But from the 3 operational losses, 2 was simply only damaged and written off, and 1 landing accident, the pilot gets hurt. But normally only hurt after some time he is back. Good. So in ship sunks was this turn only. This turn was Japanese lost nothing again, and the Allies, they lost 4 points. 2 light cargo ships. I think the maximum point of light cargo is 3. I'm not sure if 3. But at least it's not 1 point, it's 2 points, so we kill 4 points in total. These are the because the 1 point light cargo ship have only a cargo of 1000, and this has a better one with 1750. But of course they still don't have really a big impact. Good, anyway. So what else? In China we catch up with his forces. I only use my tank forces here now. You can see these standard tank regiments. They have light tanks and they have medium tanks, so they have some. They can fight, but in this case I use them only because they are so fast and they can catch easy up with these broken units, and then I use only the tanks to get rid of these forces. But normally, if you want to fight with anything what is stronger and organized, I always use whole formations of armies, and then infantry with artillery, with anti-aircraft stuff, and tanks together, not only tanks. In this case, you can maybe take the tanks simply because they can clean up stuff, but they are not to break enemy line formation. This will normally not work. And you can see that we moving stuff up because sooner or later I want to install in Xi'an airport, because you can make here, you can see I start just now with the construction of an airfield, and if I have here a bigger airfield and air HQ, then from Xi'an normally you can control all this airspace. And after we install here the our air base, we can move our units normally inside this valley of Sichuan. But before we take Sichuan, I normally want to finish these 3 bases here in the north. Simply because if we take this bases, we have here the highway up to the Mongolia area. And here are our 2 Mongolian armies. This is 1 Mongolian army. I split them up. Normally I like to stay them together, but in this case I had to choose, and this is the other Mongolian army. And depending how the situation, these Mongolian armies can maybe take these bases by on themselves, but if Dojo have here additional forces, and normally I think he will, because these bases have already very high value for the Japanese, not so much for the Allies, but for the Japanese. They have many victory points, and they also have a lot of resources. Little also light industry. Lanzhou have also oil, and compare. I mean, together they have roughly 60-80 light industry, and the refinery also makes supplies. So it is for the Chinese, it's a lot of industry. For the Japanese, not so much, but for the Japanese, it's more important to take the basis for the victory points and for the oil. The light industry is not really important for me, but and if you have this highway up, you can really then you have 2 highway streets. You must only take Hami later. Then it's more easy to supply this area and to also to move the resources out, because in Urimachi you also have some light industry, some oil here. I think here's nothing more. No. But it's normally easy for the Japanese to take all this stuff. It's not super important, but if you take it, have this bases, have Xi'an and all this area, then it's pushed already the Chinese very, 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 very deep. And then you have here this big mountain area, and then you normally can say, okay, here's the border. I don't go into Sichuan because it will really not be more easy, and there's only shitty road connection, and it's for Dojo much easier to defend. Maybe you can say, okay, I take this and it's fine, and then you try to take this in this horse. Then if you have also this bases all here, then you have also good road connection, so it's easily to move resources up and down, and then you can defend this, because if you have all of this, you have normally everything what you need. And if China keeps this, then he can stay there. Yeah, but I don't know if he can ever come out of this more. Anyway, this needs some time. You can also see that he more or less give up Jinan, because we blockade Jinan, and I think there's no supplies left, and then he had no other choice, and he give up, and this means more or less that we can take the base now. It's not really important, a little resources, a little victory points, but it means more or less that these 2 armies are now on the run, and we have to pick them up and get rid of them. And here you can see that maybe these forces we can intercept, 23,000, because they're running here crossover, and there's normally no street, and we have here the highway. So, and here's the 13th army is here on the way with enough firepower, 2,000 attack value. This, I think, with this unit we can catch and get rid of it. These 2 units are running. I mean, this is only a very small unit. Maybe we can catch this one, but this is a little far away. Maybe they will escape. If it doesn't matter. And here in Rangoon, this is the 25th Army. They more or less arrive at the base, and they change the operational mode from railway to move. And you can see that they just starting to move into the base. And after this we must cross the mountains here. And this needs maybe 2 weeks only to walk from one base to the next base. So end of February, beginning of March, we will maybe cross the river, cross this mountain, and start the invasion of Burma. But it's really slow. This really needs long time. We must normally arrive here at this base to get the highway. If it's possible, always try to move on the highway. It's really, you can you can move, I think, more or less double the speed on the main roads than on these small roads. And these roads are really, they are better than nothing, but they are even slower than the standard roads. You can see here only some cruiser formation to make a blockade, but it's risky to stay here for too long, because if Dojo have here torpedo bombers, and he can attack me, and his airbase is simply much more near. It's impossible for me to give any air cover here normally. So I only move here in for one hex, try to intercept something, and then I run out again. And let him know that my cruisers are nearby, so that he maybe really don't try to bring here too much stuff in Rangoon. Okay, the second carrier fleet. So we have here now some information still, but you can see that the repair shipyard is operational with 10 but damage of 11. So we damage half of the shipyard. So he need at least 11 days to repair it. I mean, 11 days is of course not too much, but he need 11 days to fix the damage, and before the damage is not done, it's hard for him to repair anything. The rest is not really damaged, but this is okay. And we can see that he has some fighters, some scout planes, but not really much. We also can see that there are still a lot of stuff here in the harbor, but not for... Most of this stuff is maybe damaged or burned and out of action for maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 months or more. Especially if you have no shipyard to repair anything, then it needs a very long time. Okay, so we have now here our formations, and they all have detection value. At least some have detection. They have no detection. Here's detection. Oh, looks like the carriers have no detection. So the battleships have detection. Oh no, heavy cruisers, but not the rest. Other forces have no detection value. So maybe he knows that my cruisers are here, but he don't know where's our carrier fleet. Okay, but anyway, you can see that our fuel is a little low. These light cruisers, they simply don't have the range. And also the destroyers often don't have too much range. And this, I just transfer the fuel, I think last turn, from the battleships to the destroyers. So the destroyers are full, but the battleships are now at only 22%. So we really cannot operate here too long for, I mean, it's a little risky. But this is why I have here the AOs running here. And I also have a second battleship fleet normally to give additional cover. So I bring this force here back west of Colombo, and then I will maybe try to make the airstrike on Colombo. At the same time I try to bring my AOs in range, and maybe we will see. Maybe I first attack Colombo, then I use the AOs to fill up the tanks, and then maybe attack Colombo again, depending how successful the attack on Colombo is and what is maybe here waiting for me. Because so far I don't have any recon or detection level on Colombo, so I really don't know what is here. I only know there's a shipyard of 41, and the shipyard is fully operational. And I don't expect this, but I mean, Dojo normally can send damaged ships now to Colombo and let them repair in Colombo. I mean, I don't believe that he will do this because it's far too dangerous, but it's possible. And we have only here Bombay, the shipyard is now damaged to 50%. Karachi have no shipyard. So where is the other shipyard? Madras is normally also no shipyard. Calcutta have a shipyard, but only small 11. And I don't know if he will. As this is normally far too risky to bring anything to Calcutta to fix it here. So I would say he will. He has no shipyard. Aden. So he maybe bring his stuff back to Aden. Mombasa have no shipyard. Or Cape Town. Yeah, Cape Town have a really big shipyard. But Cape Town is of course far, far away. So normally he must fix his fleet in Bombay for emergency repair. And after this he maybe can bring them to Aden and try to fix them there more successfully, finish them up. And then after Aden maybe bring them to Cape Town. And this is all out of my reach. If Dojo's ships leave the map and they're on this off-map basis, I cannot attack them more. But it also means what is not on the map cannot really stop me. And if we need 2-3 months to repair the stuff, I have 2-3 months to operate here more or less without any fear to get interdicted. And this means more or less, if I force his navy ships and task forces to leave the map, and he can maybe first come back in May or June, then it's normally it's much more easy to take Ceylon. And if Dojo loses Ceylon, it's automatically more or less disabled the base of Bombay, because if the Japanese control Ceylon, Bombay is a very easy strike range. And with Ceylon, you also have a much better situation or possibility to land here in source of India and maybe take Madras. And then you can move on Calcutta. Anyway, so for me to control Indian Oceans, Ceylon is normally after Port Blair. Port Blair is normally a good location to protect the shipping of Rangoon, because it's very hard to transport anything from Rangoon to Bangkok with these small roads. Most of the stuff you better transport via ships. So you must ship from Rangoon to Singapore, or from Singapore to Rangoon. And to protect this shipping lane, it's important to have Port Blair. But Port Blair alone will not help you much more. It's only scouting and protection for this area. But Ceylon is simply a much other case. It's with Ceylon, you normally stop any shipping of allies in this Bay of Bengal, and this will also normally allow you to. With Ceylon you can take the 3 bases, then there's normally all blocked, and you can always move up to Bombay, and maybe you can also even reach this offset bases support to Karachi, but it's of course very short range. It's hard to interdict. Because someone asked for this, my captains or admirals. So you can see that I have here always some admirals. And you can see this is the battleship leader. This is now picked by the game. You have this auto picking. The auto picking is more or less for free. If you choose your admirals commanders by your own choice, then you have to pay for them. And sometimes I check what they have, and sometimes I say, okay, I take them, but sometimes you can always disable the task force and create it again, and then maybe it's the other picking. I simply would say it is better to have an admiral or commander of a task force is not a captain, because I really don't know how the game calculates this. I said this before. A captain of a ship have a duty, he commands a ship. A commander of a task force have other duties. So this is why it's most of the time vice admirals. So this is a cruiser. So you can see the navy is always 50 to 60. It's just okay. It's nothing crazy good. the light cruisers, Navy also 56. And this is the carrier. For the carriers, I think it's much more important to check that you really have someone with air command is high. And you can see you have a very high, I think there's not really much better. 70, everything what is 70 is high end, and 76 is near the maximum. And the aggressive is 51, so it's not over aggressive, because I don't know what you can choose. I don't know what is you can choose someone is more aggressive but have less air skills. Then you will maybe attack with everything what you have. You suffer more losses because he maybe don't care what he's lose. He only want to attack. But the efficiency of your earth strength is also less because the air skill level is not so high. So Nagumo, I think, is a very reliable commander. He know what he's doing, and he will not lose his ships in an attempt only to get more honor or something like this. Yeah. So, and this is about the second carrier stack. And maybe only to explain this again. So we have here, this is the main carrier, no torpedoes left. This is the second main carrier, also no torpedoes left. Wait, maybe we must go the other direction. This is a support carrier or light carrier, also no torpedoes left. No torpedoes left. This carrier, the escort carriers don't have torpedoes. Only fleet carriers and light carriers can have torpedoes. Escort carriers are really only like support stuff. They don't have ever torpedoes. This is also, you can see how I operate my task forces. A main carrier normally always have three types: a fighter group, a dive bomber group, and a torpedo bomber group. And this size of these units are now more or less dictated by the game, because you cannot change the size. You first get a change in July of 42, then the group size will change. So long you can, I have no choice, I have this 18 and this will be 18. And then later this will be 27. And then we will see if I can, after this, I maybe can change it or it's still fixed. And you can see also this has the three original cargo groups. You also can see that they are not full, but we lost some airplanes, so normally the carrier is full more or less. And this is now a light carrier, so he can normally transport torpedoes, and 18 torpedoes, but we consume them all. And I add 30 torpedo bombers here. So it means we can make one strike with this 30 airplanes, and these 30 airplanes will use all 18 torpedoes, and 12 other airplanes will load immediately bombs. And after this first strike, every bomber will only consume or will load only bombs. So you can see this. This is normally he try to load torpedoes. If he don't get torpedoes, he will use 2 bombs, 250 kilogram. So this is why torpedo bombers, pilots, I first train them on torpedo attack, but they also must have normally Navy bombardment skills. And you can see that there are still many pilots that don't have this. I try to train, but it's not possible to train and strike and everything at the same time. So this is the second carrier fleet. Most of these units have very low experience, and I also increase the group size, and this is all not perfect up to now. So you also have this low naval attack for attacks under 2000, but I normally don't like this. Not because simply this torpedo bombers they have little hit points and no armor, and make a low naval attack against any navy ship, even if it's a destroyer. You lose too many airplanes, I would say. If you have very skillful pilots with navy bombardment, they also hit something. And they avoid much more flak damage. So, low naval attack, it's good if you have airplanes with armor and ground attack bombers. But the Japanese, they don't have this. But I think they have one type of airplane. They are more or less ground attack airplanes. Maybe you can do this with this kind of. But the Americans, they have much more choices. Okay. Only to see. So this is the 30 to maximize capacity. Here again, and this is a better of this light cruise. Normally you can say it is more or less like normally this is a medium carrier, but in this game it's officially a light carrier. But you can transport 48 airplanes. You have 27 torpedoes. This is already a lot. And because the only problem is that you don't have so many sorties with this kind of carrier. So I split it up with 24 to 24. Simply, it's half. You can make any other number, of course, but I say 24 fighters and 24 bombers means we can make one full run of 24 bombers with all torpedoes, and then the next strike we have still 3 torpedoes left. And after this they have all to switch to bombs. And this have no torpedoes, and because if you have no torpedoes, I normally use only dive bombers or fighters. In this case I have more fighters. And here I have a little torpedoes, and then I say, and this only can carry 20 airplanes, so I say, okay, then only torpedo bombers. This is all. So this is only to give a feeling about the setup. What I also do is normally, at least for every main carrier, I always choose the captains. And I give because this is a captain, and this captain will stay with the ship up to the end. If you don't change the captain, normally I think the captain will stay the whole war with the ship. So at the beginning of the game, I check every battleship and every carrier, at least every fleet carrier, if the captains are okay, and if not, then I will change them. And for a battleship, simply most important is navy, and for a carrier, the most important is air. Then after I make this carrier and the battleships, after some days later, I normally also check every heavy cruiser and every other kind of carrier. Only to make sure that they have the captains, because captains you really only change once, and admirals you always must adjust every time you create a task force. If you disband the task force, the admiral will also go back. So the admiral, you have to adapt into this commander of the task force, the admiral. You have to appoint it again and again and again and again. Okay, so I think this is now enough for this task force. And so we bring in here in Java now our Air HQ and our first fighter group on making some cap. So if Dojos try to bomb us again, he will suffer some losses. If this is enough, we will see. Maybe I must bring more. We make here some landing, but you can see this is only a small force. This Dojo have here 1,000 guys. So I also only bring one Navy guy or Navy Guard units. And I don't know more. This is a battle here of Ambon. There's still no victory for us, and our light cruisers simply consume all the ammunition last time, but with no real impact, so must return. And the Navy Guard units are a little burned out, but they are not really destroyed. This was a failure, but we strike another day. And I bring here now more and more troop transport stuff to Manila, because in Manila we're starting to pick up here the 16th and the 14th Army, and then I will bring all the stuff to Java. So in the next 2 weeks I will try to transport all stuff to Java, and then at the beginning of March we can start to conquer Java, and end of March I try to finish the operation of Java. At the same time I also try to finish the conquer of Palembang end of March. So I will, because we will start now to take Osthaven. After we conquer Osthaven, I will bring the 15th Army, not much equipment, but 2 divisions and 1 artillery stuff. We ship all to Osthaven, then we walk here from behind. Simply because I don't know how many mines are here in Palembang. Before I scouted and I saw here everywhere mines. So I don't know how well Dojo have here mines, and it's a yeah. I'm not in a rush to take Palembang. Of course you can rush for it, but I think it's for me not super important. For me it's more important to take normally Surabaya. Surabaya have the shipyard. With Surabaya you have normally a good location to operate cruisers, light cruisers and submarines for the west coast of Australia. It's also an additional shipyard, because you have only the shipyard here in Surabaya, then you have a shipyard in Singapore, and then you have the shipyard here in Saigon and Hong Kong. But Saigon can only handle cruisers, not battleships, no carriers, because it's only a shallow water harbor. And yeah, I don't know, Palembang have I think also no. So Surabaya is simply this whole area, there's no other shipyard. So this is why Surabaya is normally important. I would simply also bring up Surabaya maybe to a shipyard of 50, because it's also better. Some of the battleships, they have 42,000 tons, and at least this tonnage you need for a shipyard if you really want to use it flexible. At least 20,000. With 20,000 I do this with Saigon. In Saigon I have a shipyard of 20, because there's no cruiser bigger than 13 or 14,000 tons. So at least you can repair any cruiser. And because it's a shallow water harbor, I can bring here no carrier, no battleship in, so I don't must increase the size. So for this I have normally Singapore or Hong Kong. Here I can repair everything. And Surabaya I would also say at least 20, maybe 30, 40, and if you're at 40 you can say go to 50. Doesn't matter more. Okay, what have we here? We bring here some submarines simply to make sure that normally nothing can enter more Port Moresby. And this is now our invasion fleet. You can see 2 battleships, some light cruisers, some destroyers, a lot of other support stuff, and 4 Navy Guard units. And yeah, we try to, I have the hope that these 4 Navy Guard units are enough to take Port Moresby. If I could go back to this situation, I would maybe wait 2-3 days more and keep this in Port Moresby and pick up these 2 more Navy Guard units. I think I forgot them more or less. I have here 2 Navy Guard units. I normally can pick them, bring them to Rabaul, and then I have not 4 Navy Guard units, then I have 6 Navy Guard units. This is simply much more firepower. The only other problem is that here are some units and here are some units, and this unit simply switching my bases here all the time. So I must get rid of them, and this simply locked my units here. I have one unit here. If I use this, take this out, and maybe this Australian force is coming back and takes a base. This is, I think, only very small stuff. This is only a block force. This is okay. This is also only a block force. But these two block forces get rid of this unit. And this Booner forces blocking these forces. And here's also some British stuff. I have simply not enough. Because, I mean, there is not... I have no forces here back. You can see there's only base forces. Nothing. Also here. This is only a small block force. This is only a part of normally it belongs to Wake Island. Later I will ship them out. This is also only a block force. And here's also nothing. So all in this southeast area, I only have these 2 Navy Guard units here. I have 1 Navy Guard units here. So these are 3 Navy Guard units. Plus 1 here on Wake Island. These are the 4 Navy Guard units are more or less in defense and block operation. And then I have 4 more with this task force. And this is everything I have. Only 8 Navy Guard units to operate all of this area. This is simply very, very little investment. But this is related that I say I don't care. I only want to take this stuff. I normally really only want to take Port Moresby, Shortlands and Tulagi, and I have this all, and I'm fine already. All this other stuff is a heavy investment. If I won't go for this, I need much more equipment. And I will go for this island change first after I take Sumatra and after I take Java. Not now. I don't try too many stuff at the same time. Okay, I think this is now enough. See you all. Hope you have a good day and a successful year of 2022. Stay safe. Bye bye.